What is the data strategy for the Defense Information Systems Agency, DISA? How is DISA leveraging data as a strategic asset? I'll explore these questions and so much more with our very special guest, Caroline Kuharske, Acting Chief Data Officer at the Defense Information Systems Agency, DISA. So Caroline, would you provide us with an overview of the history and mission of the Defense Information Systems Agency, DISA?
Absolutely, Michael. So DISA has been providing communication system support really from the 1960s. DISA was originally known as the Defense Communications Agency, or DCA, and started in Arlington, Virginia. The creation of the agency was designated as a needed strong focal point for DoD development, integration, and the operation control of ground and satellite-based communication tasks. DCA really grew over the decades and supported many military efforts such as Operation Desert Storm and Desert Shield by providing that long-haul network support, voice switches, technical control facilities, and many other data support elements. Then around 1990 is when DCA then became DISA, D-I-S-A, the Defense Information Systems Agency, due to a reorganization and how DISA really expanded its role in the DoD. So from then until now and beyond, we have supported and we will continue to enhance the overall communication infrastructure really at a global scale to support our warfighters, our Secretary of Defense, our White House, and all the other DoD information network support elements.
I was wondering, since taking over your role and given that expansive portfolio and the charge that you're leading, what are the top management challenges that you've faced, and how have you sought to address some of those challenges?
You ask this at a great time, Michael. Since we are really officially in our very first 100 days of having a chief data office, I'm at the point where I can take a step back and reflect on those challenges that we've encountered and how do we change the responses that we originally thought that we had to what they actually should be, based on the path that we're now walking and have seen in the first 100 days. Some of those challenges would be, number one, really acquiring the correct resources from the beginning. An example would be, we solicited for some data governance support resources, and when we wrote the documents for that support, we wrote it in the mindset that the Chief Data Office is way further down the road than what we originally were. So we quickly had to learn that we needed to pivot and adjust that support verbiage of what we really needed in the first phases of building this office. That gave us the ability to capitalize on external resources at where we are right now, instead of with the expectation of where we're going to be. The foundation of a chief data office is very, very important on how we're going to be able to leverage that authority within the office. So understanding, what resources we needed to meet that authority was a bit of a challenge. Another challenge that I think that we'll have really throughout the life cycle of the chief data office, whether it's today, 5 years, 10 years, is really just communicating to the workforce and all that, the chief data office team we're really here for innovation, not disruption. And sometimes those two things can be seen as the same or, possibly misinterpreted. We're not here to completely turn data use upside down, but what we are here to see is how we can mature with our data use, providing a workforce with illustrations and true details of the case for change of our data use, letting them see where the true value can be taken if we were just to possibly rethink what we're doing with data and where we could be with data.
And Caroline, could you share with us DISA's data strategy and, more importantly, the key priorities of your office?
Right. So, we spoke just a touch on it earlier. We are currently drafting and finalizing the DISA data implementation plan, which is the DISA data strategy. And that is to meet the DoD CDO data strategy, but also the DISA strategic plan that our Director General Skinner laid out, and the DoD CDO data strategy that Mr. David Spirk laid out. Those house the strategies, and now it's up to DISA components, Chief Data Office included, to map an implementation plan on how to meet that strategy. Our key implementation priorities include the exploitation of DoD data, across the DoD in that secure and ethical manner. We cannot forget that those key points of being secure and being ethical with what we are doing with our data. DISA provides many, many services to the DoD, and the infrastructure has a vast amount of data that traverses across it. So we really need to harness that data and share the information from that data to the warfighters that need it to make those actionable decisions.
Now, Caroline, what can you tell us about your data cataloging project?
Yeah, so as an effort to really automate finding our data, knowing where it lives, who the data stewards are, how is it being used, we've invested in a data catalog capability that will really push the modernization of our data use. It's, when we're talking about data catalog, and I think yourself and probably the majority of listeners out there can appreciate, whenever we used to go to the library and we would go to the filing cabinets on the wall and start thumbing through all the little cards in alphabetical order, that really had that book catalog for us to find the right book. Well, on that catalog, it really didn't give us a whole lot of information about the book, just really the title, the author, when it was written and where you can find it. And that's what we're looking, that's what we're implementing within the agency right now, is that ability to go across our environments and start finding what data is where. Before we could start really implementing those changes or those new governance and policies, that will begin with role-based access, that will begin with piecing certain data sets together for easier reporting, finding that redundant data and possibly helping to converge different environments. We needed a capability to help us do that. Trying to have the workforce just send us in spreadsheets where they're manually inputting what data they think they have where, that was just not going to meet the mark. So that is when the data catalog project really came into a prioritization effort for the Chief Data Office.
You're also doing stuff around part of your portfolio of knowledge management. I was wondering if you could share with us, maybe outline some of the projects and initiatives being pursued in this part of your portfolio.
Absolutely. So when we really think about data management, those are really the key buzzwords right now. And knowledge management is a key player in that data management life cycle. You could really kind of go either way, with knowledge management being the key phrase or data management being the key phrase. Because really in the end, they may start at different points of that data life cycle, but they are 100% dependent on each other. DISA is very, very lucky that we have an amazing knowledge management branch that is residing within the Chief Data Office as an asset for the agency. We have a great group of people that are very process driven, that have a history of providing the knowledge graphs, knowledge portals, and other entities that really help our workforce find authoritative information sources pretty quickly. Instead of, you've always heard the key phrase, if it's more than 3 keystrokes, you've already lost the end user. So what our knowledge management team tries to do is provide those knowledge graphs or those information systems that help the workforce get what they need at the single pane for at their fingertips. So they're currently creating that knowledge management toolkit with best practices, with best practice documentation, and examples of knowledge management tools for that information bundling, right? So while our system owners and program managers, they have a list of key elements that they have to have for authorization to operate, really just for program health, it's not really documented anywhere in a portfolio type of bundling. So the knowledge management team is trying to craft that to give to portfolio managers so that they have an organization tool that they can use. They're working with leadership to really evolve our SharePoint use and our SharePoint sites and automate the information population from various areas of our technology, of our Microsoft Teams, that will reduce the manual efforts across the agency. If you're putting information in one area, what we're doing is we're trying to automate the information from one area to just automatically populate in another area by tying the two together with some of the tools in the back end. As stated, reducing the manual effort, ensuring that we have authoritative information out there is a huge thing that our knowledge management team is doing. One other huge effort that they're working on right now is the AFCEA TechNet Knowledge Management Symposium. So our knowledge management branch actually helps to organize the symposium with AFCEA. It's a 3-day symposium that has DoD and federal speakers, also has workshops when available. And what this does is it helps to build and show the importance of knowledge management. We have, tons of service discussions, data discussions, defense discussions. Knowledge management should definitely be one of those discussed as well. That's what's really going to help. That's going to help that information sharing. The next symposium is in Baltimore in April. So that's coming soon.
This has been the Business of Government Hour, a conversation with Caroline Kuharske, Acting Chief Data Officer at the Defense Information Systems Agency, DISA. Be sure to join us next time for another informative, insightful, and in-depth conversation on improving government leadership and its effectiveness. Until then, subscribe, download, and listen to the entire interview at Podcast One, iTunes, or on your favorite podcast app. And as always, at businessofgovernment.org.